Hi, everyone. I am Audrey King. I'm an assistant professor of agricultural communications at Oklahoma State University. And in the REEU world, I'm one of the PIs on a project here at Oklahoma State where we send students into rural communities for 10 weeks, where they do community engaged research as well as service opportunities engaged again with rural communities. It's called the Rural Scholars Program. So I'm excited to be here today to talk to you about AI, its ethics, and the way that we should be using them in research in the classroom. Let's get started. So I don't know if you've heard, but AI is changing the way that we do literally everything. I wear lots of hats in my roles here at Oklahoma State, but one of them is I'm the state extension specialist in digital media, which has related to this idea of AI pretty quickly. And when I go out into the world and I talk to people about AI, I usually like to make this joke where I say, we're talking about artificial intelligence. If you're talking about the AI that does this and results in, baby animals afterwards, this is not the place for you. So you can go watch a different video for that. We're going to talk really specifically about AI in research and classroom from a student perspective. I also think I have some slides in here that hopefully will give some ideas about what it is that we should be using AI for and maybe some ideas that we haven't thought of. So why should we be talking about this? Why does this matter? AIs are already part of student life. It's very interesting. I teach lots of classes here at Oklahoma State, and I feel like students are either very heavy users or terrified of using AI. There's very little in between. But these tools are already part of student life, and I'm going to tell you this right now. If you are under the age of 30, you're going to walk into a workplace and they're going to expect that you know how to use AI and that you're going to be able to solve all of their problems using AI. So you might as well get used to it. But these rules and expectations are still really evolving. And AI is going to be one of those greatest sort of, and generative AI in particular, going to be the thing that we point back to when we're old and be like, I remember when they invented AI. But the rules and expectations are really evolving around that, from ethical use as far as am I using my brain enough, to as well it's like impacts on the environment. And misuse of AI can really hurt your learning. It can hurt your grades. It can hurt your credibility. It can really change the way that other people look at you. So when we talk about ethical use, I'm talking about being smart and responsible with the way that we use it and being very discerning about what that looks like. Let's talk about what we mean by AI. If you were an older crowd, I would say, hey, do you guys remember Clippy? That little paper clip, thank you for the smile there, that would pop up and be like, hey, it looks like you're trying to write a resume. And then they would try to help you and it went really poorly. Yeah, well, that was also a form of AI. But when I talk about AI, I'm talking mostly about generative AI and large language models. So these are tools that generate or assist with creating text or code or images or data summaries. We're usually talking about ChatGPT. Grammarly is a great instance. If you're not using Grammarly, you're a fool. I'm just going to say it. It makes my writing better. We're talking about citation generators, image generators, all those sorts of things. This is where I always talk about AI as a tool, and we use tools, we want to use our tools, not be a tool. So know that that's true. AI cannot think and understand, which leads us to this idea of like, how does it make decisions? Well, it predicts patterns based on training data. The powers that be, input piles and piles and piles of data into AI, and then AI sorts through it in a way that helps us predict patterns and know what that looks like. So AI can do a lot of very useful things. It can suggest ideas, it can summarize information and improve clarity, but it does not think critically. It can't verify truth or make any ethical judgments. So one of the things that the AI experts, even when they talk about it, it's like, oh, well, my AI lied to me. No, it didn't. In order for something to lie, it would have to have human-like motivations, and AI doesn't have those. That's why they call it, oh, it hallucinates. It hallucinated this answer. And okay, where does all this information come from within AI and those models? Well, it comes from the internet at large. And, as Abraham Lincoln told us, everything on the internet is true. Clearly, Abraham Lincoln was not around when the internet was founded, right? So that's what I'm telling you. That's somewhere on the internet that phrase exists. It's a very long running joke. Again, you're probably too young for those excellent references, but knowing that what's feeding into it is false is also really important. So keep those things in mind. Here are the things that I think we need to be most transparent about, most that need to underpin what we think about when we're thinking about our ethical principles when it comes to AI. And that's this idea about being really honest when you are using AI, letting your instructors know when you're using AI, letting end consumers know when you're using AI, all of those things. I do a lot of work in helping people use social media really effectively. I will tell you that I think that people in today's world just assume that AI is being used to create things. But I think we need to be very upfront with those things in classroom and in research sort of settings. So at the end of the day, you are accountable for the final work. What you put your name on is what you will have to answer to at the end of the day, whether that was an ethical choice or not. So know that's a thing, and even if it was false or not. So always check those sorts of things. This is the other thing that I think we lose sight of so much in our educational journeys. We just want to get done. We just want this assignment done. We want it to be perfect. And if I have one more student tell me I just want to know what you want. You know what I want as an instructor? You know what your instructors really want? We want you to learn. I care about your final products because I want to know that you learn throughout the process, not that your final product is perfect. So learning matters way more than efficiency. Putting in the time to learn, going through that process, the learning is in the becoming, not in the doing or the done, I guess. So know that learning really matters more than that. And that your use of AI shouldn't give you an unfair advantage. And in another space of that is all of there's also this whole conversation that's happening about ethical AI use, in that everyone should have an equal opportunity for the use of AI so that our haves and our have-nots don't continue to get further apart. That's a diatribe I could go on later. But let's talk about what is usually acceptable and things that we should think a little more about. So usually the way that we could use AI in the classroom, or even the ways that I encourage my students to use AI in the classroom, are things like brainstorming topics, making fun titles. I love a fun title via AI because I love an alliteration, a repeating consonant sound in a title. Goodness, that's my favorite. Clarifying instructions or concepts, or hey, there's this thing that was explained to me in organic chemistry, but I still don't understand it. Can you help me have some more examples of what to consider when I think about these things? Improving your grammar and clarity, or even studying and self-quizzing, creating study guides based on notes, all of those things, totally above board. The things that I will yell at students for, and I really don't even yell that much, I just get really sad in their general direction, is submitting work that's not your own, that's completely generated by AI. Using AI on exams without permission. If in my classroom, if I always let students do their tests online, I also have them, you can use OpenNote, OpenBook, but if I even suspect that you use AI, you get a 0 on that question, and then you get to come to my office and write it down pencil and paper if you want to fight me on that. Not one student has ever come in to fight me on it and write it in pencil and paper. So I'd like to say my judgment's usually pretty correct there. And it's usually not acceptable if you're just trying to avoid learning. So be in the classroom for the right reason. I will tell you that my brother called me the other day, and he was he was complaining about something. He was in a job interview he was interviewing someone. It was I asked him what their values are, but what do you really value? And I was 100% academic integrity. That's the first thing that I'm going to say. And he's that's just such a product of your environment. I'm yeah, it is. And AI misuse is 100% an issue of academic integrity. Not using it in the way that it should be used or can be used, using it like a tool, not as a tool, is what we're talking about there. I didn't know, or I didn't know that AI didn't count here. That's not a defense. your instructors have probably very explicitly spelled out in either those assignments or in their syllabus what they're comfortable with you using AI. And if you have a question, you better be asking. And honestly, if you're asking the question, you probably shouldn't be using it. But policies do vary by class and institution. That's why it's very important to ask your instructor. Know what those limits are and what that looks like. I like to think about it as like a stoplight. 100% no AI use, that's a big red light. Supervised sort of AI use or using it in these very specific ways, that's sort of a yellow light. And green light, like, go for it, use AI in any way you want. You're probably not going to see a lot of green light in the world, but it does exist. So when we're talking about AI in research, right, you are all being asked to do some research experiences, likely over the summer. The ways that I've seen AI be used in research really, really well, refining some research questions, summarizing articles that you've read, even pulling them into something like Perplexity or Notebook LM, all of those things to even talk about how those can synthesize, or I like to use it to know, like, is this article actually related to what I think it is? Is this article worth my time to read? Or even helping draft some outlines. The places that I've seen students really struggle, even my graduate students, is like faking citations. One student sat down to do an annotated bibliography, and they're like, find me 12 references related to this thing. Well, it found references, but none of them were actually correct. Some of them, in fact, had my name in them, and I'm like, cool, I didn't write that article. That article doesn't exist. That DOI pulls an article that isn't related to what you're doing, which is big fat plagiarism and a big problem. So those are the things that can get really icky really fast. And it will invent data, it will invent sources, it will hallucinate those things, right? And you really need to be the person. You are the researcher, you are an interpreter. Believe in yourself enough to go ahead and make some of those assessments yourself. Which gets us into this idea of some bias and some hallucinations. So your AI is always going to tell you what you want to hear. It is like this little servant that's just so happy that you're around. And yes, ma'am, that's exactly what's going to happen. Yeah, you're totally right. Which can really enforce these social and cultural biases that already exist in the world. So just know that you actually aren't right all the time, and that there are biases that are really being reinforced by AI, especially if the information that you feed it are from inherently biased resources, right? It can invent facts, sources, quotes, it'll hallucinate those things all day long. The output may sound confident, and it will be confident. It is like, it has the confidence of like, I'm gonna offend some people, but like of a really, really, it's just gonna be pretty sure that it's pretty sure. You know what I mean? It has the confidence of somebody who's never really seen much of the world, and they're like, yeah, everything's 100% the way I've always been taught, and we've always done it this way, so that's the way that we're gonna do it. It's gonna sound confident, but it's gonna be real wrong. And so verification at the end of the day is your job. You have to verify those things. You have to check your own biases and all of those sorts of things. Which leads us to this idea of privacy. Not only does AI learn from the internet at large, but AI also learns from what everybody puts into it. So when AI started getting quite popular, and the idea of like what we feed AI, people were putting a bunch of stuff into AI essentially, and there was like this dip of they will occasionally like give different AI generators IQ tests. People were putting so much wrong stuff into it that the AI itself got dumber. So know that not only is it the internet that it's pulling from, but it's also pulling from everything that anybody puts into it, which means do not be uploading things into AI that you wouldn't want to plaster on the side of your home. Whether that's your phone number, your social security number, anything, or anybody else's data like that, right? Sensitive or protected research data, we do not put into an AI unless, of course, you have the paid version, or it's even like an AI version of a research software that's like, it's okay to help us analyze those things. Maybe we'll think about that, but double check, triple check, always ask your advisor, always be sure about this, and read some of those privacy statements, because you will be shocked about the things that we're going to go ahead and let be put back into the world. We also need to be really careful about like, who owns this data? Where does it go? Does it feed back into the world at large? What does that look like? Some of the big debates that we're having at academic conferences right now, I helped lead a conference for a few years, is like, do we as reviewers get to put other people's stuff into an AI? And the answer that you'll see 100%, even I read something from NSF this just yesterday, is like, no. You don't get to put other people's unpublished work into an AI, because that is really opens them up to this idea of like, all of a sudden, all of their knowledge is back out into the world without their name on it. And that can be really icky. So ask yourself, who owns this data? Where does it go? Am I doing this in an ethical way? So always ask yourself, does this help me learn, or am I avoiding learning? Would I explain this use comfortably to my instructor? Could I tell my instructor I did this and not feel icky about it? Am I checking and taking responsibility for that output? And if you don't feel good about any of those answers, then you probably need to rethink your approach. Let's say that you use, and you can just kind of do this on your own as this video is being posted, but like, you use AI to write a rough summary, then you rewrite it completely and add verified sources. Is that ethical or not? And what is it that makes that difference? Should you be more transparent? So, anywho, best practices that you really need to think about is reading some AI policies early in the semester, understanding what those look like, asking your instructor very explicitly what is allowed. It's likely a nice question that you could ask on syllabus day, right? Raise that hand. They're going to like you because you're asking questions, but also that you're thinking strategically about that. Use your AI early in the process, not at the, well, you could use it at the end to be like, yo, does this address everything in the rubric? But if you start using it, if you've waited too long to start a project and you start pulling AI into it late, it's going to be even more tempting just to use that output rather than letting it facilitate your learning. Keep drafts that show your thinking so that you can back up that you've used AI in an ethical way. Cite AI well. APA 7 will tell you how to cite AI. So go ahead and do that. Things that you could use this for is generating outlines, summarizing research articles really quickly, checking grammar and improving clarity, but always verify those sources and avoid plagiarism. We're gonna skip over that. I also think that you can be using AI for time management and productivity. Like, if you're not doing that, you're kind of a fool. Creating study schedules and reminders. If you're not popping in your course schedules at the beginning of every semester and letting AI help you come up with a study schedule or even a plan of attack for your entire semester, I think you're kind of silly. Automate some repetitive tasks like formatting, using AI tools for quick note taking and summarization, all good options. If you're looking for productivity hacks sort of with AI, input your weekly tasks into AI, ask it to create a study schedule, and then you can evaluate your feasibility and adjust as needed. I do find that my AI, like myself, really struggles with time and knowing maybe the amount of time that something should take, as well as like just really bad at calculating time. I say like, oh, I need to leave. I like to get to work at 8. It takes me 12 minutes to get to work. And they're like, okay, great. Leave at 7:15. No, I do not need to be leaving at 7:15. I need to leave at 7:40, maybe, right? Anyway, that's a thing that I've noticed that AI sort of struggles with. You can generate ideas, you can design visual content, but always come back and perhaps, especially if you're in the communication end of things, use it to help you brainstorm rather than create from scratch. Creating engaging presentation outlines, and even for career prep, you can be using these things. Upload your resume, let it critique it. What is it that Could I tailor it for this specific job? What would that look like? Practice interview questions. I'm going to work at this job. This is the position that I'm applying for. This is the company. What sort of questions do you think that they're going to ask me in this interview? Or what sort of questions should I be asking them at the end of this? So also researching companies and those roles really efficiently. So at the end of the day, this is what I would like you to take away. AI isn't going anywhere. Our biggest companies are requiring that people use AI. There's going to be people that expect you to walk into the workforce very prepared to use AI and turn the whole company on its head by using AI. Ethical use really protects your learning and your credibility and lets you be this really functional person out in the world. And being transparent and responsible with your use is really this idea of good judgment and good ethics. So when in doubt, ask and disclose and document your use of AI, and you're going to feel better about those things ultimately, I think. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me via email, and I'm happy to take any questions you have right now.
Thank you, Dr. King. That was great. You touched on a lot of interesting points. I think there's a comment in the chat.
Oh, excellent.
Oh, log out at 11:30.
Yep.
Great.
Thanks for staying.
Yes.
Thanks. I typed in the chat because I didn't know how much longer the presentation was going to be, but at least I got to see the PowerPoint and everything go through.
Yay.
I thought it was lovely. It was really, really good. I'm taking a philosophy of science class right now, and my professor, he went to a convention where where they were like talking about AI and different things that they saw issues with or like concerns. And well, my professor, he's a little bit older. I want to say he's probably around maybe his 60s. So he's been teaching for a while, and so seeing like this transition between using AI and not using it, he didn't know that even professors were using it. So he asked the class, like, does anybody know professors that are using AI? And well, I'm a biology major, so I told him that one time our professor went ahead and I guess kind of slightly revealed that she makes the tests using AI.
Yep.
So students were really like iffy about the whole situation, knowing that she's not the one constructing the questions. But telling him that, he was just really like taken aback by it. But it's different seeing it be integrated everywhere.
Yes. And like again, these things are really here to stay. And I think being transparent about the way that you use it is really wise. I've not necessarily used AI to construct tests. I do take that test, put it into AI, and then make Kahoot questions for my students based on those, so that I don't have to write a test twice. So that's sort of interesting, I think, too.
I agree. But I'm gonna let you all go. I have class, but thank you so much for presenting.
Yes,
Thank you,
thank you for
Angelina.
attending, dear.
Well, thank you so much for your time, Dr. King. I really appreciate it.
No problem.
And I hope you have a fantastic rest of your week.
Yeah, you too, dear. You let me know what else you need.
Thank you so much. We'll be in touch. Bye.
See ya.